I cannot stop thinking about the Indiana Fever Connecticut Sun game from last night. Obviously, Indiana ended up losing. Ty Harris, Indiana native, had one of the best quarters that anybody's played this year. She was phenomenal in the fourth. Alyssa Thomas had one hell of a game. And the Sun, I was actually really impressed with their way to grit things through in spite of, they really just could not hit anything from outside last night. I think they finished 20% from the 3-point line. Things were just really mucking up for them. I don't think this is a game that they win last year, to be honest. So I was impressed with that from them. Obviously, there are things to pick apart that were both good and bad for them, but this is about the Fever. Obviously, it has been a rough go to start the year for the Indiana Fever. They're 0-4 right now. In some ways, I think it's been a little bit overblown. Like, they came out the gates with an incredibly tough schedule. It really doesn't feel like it's going to get any easier for a minute, but that's the WNBA. That's not anything being stacked against them. The league is incredibly tough. They're just, every team is talented. But I think what was exciting about last night, number one, the defense really just took such a massive uptick for Indiana, and I was really pleased with that because that's going to need to be something there all year. I thought Aliyah Boston was tremendous defensively. You could see a lot of things just in general. Like, I thought their rotations in general were just a lot better. They were much better. Especially after the first half, I felt they did a much better job closing down the offensive glass after they got demolished on the offensive glass in the first half. It's going to take time. Like, you have two number one overall picks. Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston are, the future faces, current and future faces of this franchise. It takes time to get that all together. And I know that's not the answer that everybody wants to hear, but it's the truth. And I think what was so exciting for me about last night, obviously the defense is mentioned, but I think there was one play in particular that I pulled up to go through today because, that is the quintessential what we want to see moving forward in terms of pairing Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston together. Thus far to start the season, it has not felt like they have been on the same page. And again, that's to be expected. This is a high-stakes environment. A lot changed up from last year to this year. Caitlin's style and Aliyah's style are very different. Aliyah's gotten a lot less post-ups to start the year than she did last year. That's not saying it's good or bad. That's just, it's part of change. Things are different for Caitlin in terms of how she's kind of figuring things out. So everybody's kind of meshing together to figure that out. But we saw some really good stuff with it last night. My friend Nikias Duncan from over at the Dunker Spot put together a really good thread the other day talking about why he felt Aliyah and Caitlin maybe haven't clicked in pick and roll together yet. And I thought it was really poignant and timely, but also made a lot of sense. I'll have to link that in the description down below. But I think part of what was fun in watching this is, obviously you want to see this group continue to grow in the areas that they're, trying to figure out and get better at. And I think the Caitlin Aliyah pick and roll is what's going to be the foundation of the Fever moving forward, or needs to be, I should say. So, how do you kind of get that going? And it felt like last night was such a massive step forward in that. So I want to start off just by showing it. Obviously, this clip is, I believe there's just about 3 or 4 minutes left in the game at this point. And Caitlin's bringing the ball up. It's a little bit of a slowed down possession. Let's just run through the clip first one time, and then we'll go from there. So she's guarded by Tiffany Mitchell. Erica Wheeler sets a screen. She pauses for a beat. Aliyah Boston sets a screen, drags the screen out, pass, finish through traffic. Great stuff. Actually, wait, yeah, I was wrong. This is with 10 minutes left. So this was opening play for the Fever in the fourth quarter. There's so much that I loved about this. I think the Fever have really started to work in more guard screens for Caitlin Clark since that opening game, and that's been really good. We saw some really good stuff with Kelsey Mitchell screening for Caitlin in the second game against New York. Obviously, that game did not end up going great, but I think you're starting to see the puzzle pieces come together. So I love this because Erica Wheeler is not a movement shooter. So ghost screening when so if you were setting a ghost screen, the point is you're not setting it. So Erica would come up here and then jet out before Tiffany Mitchell even hits her. So the point is you put some motion in the defense to make them care about what you're doing, right? Erica's not really a movement shooter, so they use her as more of a set screener here. And this is an awesome screen, to be honest. I think it toes the line of legality, but most screens do, if we're being completely honest. Most good screens do, if we're being completely honest. So you force a switch. they're not hunting Ty Harris. I think this is more just about putting motion in the defense. Obviously, Aliyah steps up. We get the screen in the high slot. There's a lot of things that I love about this. Number one, I love this angle here. Like, hit this angle and then roll down. And I think, like, as my friend Nakai has talked about, there's room for Aliyah to continue improving her footwork and how she does things out of screens. That's just not something that's been, like, a huge part of her game. That South Carolina was not a pick and roll heavy team. The Fever ran pick and roll last year, but it was a lot more about the high-low game between Melissa Smith and Aliyah Boston, and I want to see them do more of that because we haven't really seen a lot of the high-low game yet this year. But point being, okay, you have this happen. Where this is set, so often when you're talking about like weak side, strong side in basketball, if you have a screen set right here, it's just like it puts a lot more strain on the defense to have to help all the way over on a roll that's coming here. And like, so that's why DeWanna Bonner tags up even though she's on the strong side technically. Because like the fun part is like you run it, the way that they run this, like Caitlin's going this way off the screen. So to what is the weak side and Aliyah rolls strong side. But like you have so much more space on this side of the court than you typically do in the, when you're just talking about like how pick and roll divides the court a little bit. So I love that to start. And then, so obviously like a great hard screen from Aliyah. The Sun are doing show and recover. So the idea is screen gets set, the big who's at the level of the screen shows to contain the driver or just the ball handler, and then the guard recovers over top. With a great screen like that, you make the recover harder because it's going to take Ty Harris longer to get over. I love how Caitlin drags us out. So 1 dribble, 2 dribble before pausing and looking. So a Stu Lindor who started over here where the roll was has to come out this way to contain. Ty Harris has to recover over top. So that's like another, 5-6 steps to get there. You have Aliyah wide open right here. So I love that Caitlin drags it out like that because pulling things out east-west is such a big part of opening things up north-south. It sounds like such a weird thing, but point being, like when you're talking about pick and roll, the whole idea is creating a gap. And honestly, I think of it less of a gap, but I think about it more as time, right? So all the time that Caitlin has 2 on the ball here opens up more time for Aliyah and just this side of the offense to be able to work, with Christy Wallace lifting this to try and get DeWanna Bonner out of the picture, but DeWanna makes a really great play here. But point being, a solid play. I think that there's a lot of ways to dive into that. But point being, you create a lot more time to keep the offense in an advantageous situation for them, which is really key. So again, looking at this pass. I love this pass. Caitlin, one of the things that, like, her growing in how she handles blitzes and more pressure defenses is going to be key because I think not that she was bad at it at Iowa, but she had a tendency to retreat dribble. So instead of, like, keeping her head up and looking downhill, she would often turn back, like kind of like flip back. I'd have to pull up a clip from the first game. I don't feel like doing that right now, to be honest. But she would often like kind of turn back and try and reset. And she was good enough at it, and she's such a skilled player that college teams really couldn't make her pay for that because they didn't have the personnel to. In the W, she struggled, especially in that first game against Connecticut. Connecticut was blitzing hard. So like if you retreat, you have 2 on you, and that's just a great way to force a turnover or get yourself in trouble. Here, she keeps her head up, goes to the left, and then I love this little jump pass off one, throw ball high, get velocity on it so that it gets there quick. This is just a great pass. Great catch by Aliyah. Euro step. Finish. Why does this matter? Why am I spending my morning clipping this and talking through it? Like, there's so much room to even keep improving things technically in this. But I'm just so impressed that they were able to do this in Game 4 after really not having that chemistry down. I think that shows that there's a real commitment to film and how they're kind of approaching this, which obviously there should be. They're number 1 overall picks in a professional setting. But, like, I'm just impressed that they were able to find this. They had a couple really nice plays in this game, but this was the one for me where I think this was a really crucial thing for them to get on tape together to say, hey, this is something we can have as our base. This is what we need to do to get ourselves going together, and this is how we can thrive out of it. And no, Aliyah missed the last bucket of the game, but I think that was a tough one. There was a ton of traffic. That happens. Aliyah has had a slow start to the season, but I thought she was really good in this game. Again, especially defensively. Both these players are kind of figuring out how to be efficient with one another. Growing as a defense is going to be key for the whole team. But again, I was really just so pleased with how this played out. I want to see more of this moving forward. I'm excited to see how they keep putting in new wrinkles and figuring things out as a team. But this is a massive step forward for a team that has all the eyes on it in basketball right now.